Some games are born with everything they need to succeed. Great ideas, solid gameplay, huge studios backing them, but for some reason, they just don't take off. Sometimes there's a bit of hype at the beginning, but it disappears so fast it's like it never existed. And with that in mind, today I brought a list of games that flopped, but are actually excellent. And each one deserves an explanation because every flop here happened for a completely different reason. And first things first, flopping does not mean a game is bad. Sometimes the marketing failed, the release window is terrible, or the bad reputation of another title ended up contaminating a game that deserved way more recognition. And that's exactly what happened with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. The moment it was announced, a lot of people turned their backs because of the disaster that was Marvel's Avengers. Gamers didn't trust Marvel games anymore, and that hurt the launch badly. Tons of people just ignored it, assuming it would be another bomb like Avengers. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Guardians of the Galaxy delivers exactly what fans wanted. An incredibly well-written story, perfectly timed humor, charismatic characters, and gameplay way smoother than anyone expected. The character dynamics are so well done that you feel like you're inside a Marvel movie, but with the freedom to experience that adventure your own way. The soundtrack is amazing, full of 80s hits just like the movies. It's a game that pulls you in, makes you laugh, makes you emotional, and keeps a cinematic rhythm from beginning to end. Its problem was never quality, it was reputation. A reputation destroyed by a different game that had nothing to do with it. If you've never played it, you're missing out on one of the best superhero games ever made. Now, when it comes to flopping because of a disastrous launch, nothing in recent history suffered more than Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt Red created one of the biggest hypes the gaming world had ever seen. They had just released The Witcher 3, one of the most awarded games of all time. They made gigantic cinematic trailers, showed a futuristic city full of details, smart NPCs, complex systems. Even Keanu Reeves came on stage to announce the project. Everyone believed Cyberpunk would be the most revolutionary game of its generation. But when the game finally launched, it wasn't any of that. Horrible performance on base consoles, mission-breaking bugs, bizarre glitches, flying objects, characters falling through the floor. It was enough to destroy the game's reputation in a matter of days. People asked for refunds, stores removed the game temporarily, and Cyberpunk basically became a synonym for disappointment. But to everyone's surprise, CD Projekt Red didn't abandon it. They spent years fixing, polishing, rewriting systems, improving AI, rebalancing weapons, rebuilding the police system, improving driving, redesigning entire mechanics. It was such a massive effort, it's almost like they created a new game on top of the original. And the result? Today, Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the most immersive games of this generation. Now, let's move to something completely different. Quantum Break. This is the perfect example of a game born in the wrong moment. Quantum Break launched in 2016, at a time when players still weren't used to hybrid experiences, mixing a TV show with video game storytelling. The idea was extremely innovative. You played part of the story and then watched live-action episodes with real actors that continued exactly where the gameplay left off. Everything connected, everything canon, everything part of the narrative. The problem is, very few people understood the concept at the time. Many found it strange, confusing, or just didn't like the idea of watching episodes in the middle of a game. And to make things worse, the game was stuck as an Xbox One exclusive, a console that wasn't very popular in Brazil and still had a bad reputation at launch. The result? Tons of people ignored it. But looking back now with a 2025 mindset, Quantum Break was insanely ahead of its time. The story is full of twists and has that unmistakable Remedy DNA. Strong narrative, cinematic atmosphere, and polished gameplay. And since we're talking about misunderstood games, there's no way we skip The Last Guardian. This game has suffered from something that often destroys great things: excessive hype. After Shadow of Colossus and Ico, everyone expected something monumental. And since the game took nearly 10 years to develop, expectations only grew and grew and grew. When it finally released, some technical issues hit hard. Unstable performance, FPS drops, and a somewhat clunky control scheme, especially when guiding Trico.
But behind those flaws lies one of the most emotional experiences you can have in gaming. The bond between the boy and Trico is so deep, so well built, so sensitive, it feels like you're dealing with a real creature. Trico isn't some obedient digital pet, he has his own personality. Sometimes he hesitates, sometimes he doesn't understand, sometimes he takes his time, exactly like a real animal would. And that authenticity changes everything. The Last Guardian isn't about action or graphics, it's about emotional connection. It's about trust between two completely different beings. It's about building a relationship. And because of that, a lot of people didn't get it at launch. Today, it's recognized as an artistic masterpiece that was heavily underestimated back then. Now, let's talk about another unfairly treated case, Prey 2017. This game had trouble from the marketing stage. First, because it carried the name Prey, which made many believe it was a sequel to the original game. But it had absolutely nothing to do with it. New story, new universe, new approach. Confusing marketing pushed away a massive audience. And to make things worse, it launched right alongside Resident Evil 7 and Zelda Breath of the Wild, two of the most hyped games of the year. Prey didn't stand a chance. But everyone who played it knows Prey is exceptional. The atmosphere is oppressively immersive, giving you the feeling of being isolated in space, surrounded by creatures that can disguise themselves as literally any object. Walking into a room knowing that anything might be an enemy keeps you constantly on edge. The freedom of gameplay is incredible. Solving situations your own way is one of its strongest points. And the ending, no spoilers, but it's brilliant. It's the kind of game that sticks with you long after you finish it. Now, another game that suffered because of its own launch was Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's a direct sequel to Fallen Order, which was highly praised, so expectations were high sky. And to be fair, the game delivered a lot. An excellent story, addicted combat, more open exploration, more side missions, more freedom. But then came the problems. Bugs, performance issues, FPS drops. All of that made the game get hammered at launch. Many players simply gave up. But as months went by, multiple updates fixed almost everything. And today, Jedi Survivor is exactly what fans wanted from the beginning. Deep, cinematic, engaging, and extremely fun to play. Now moving on, we get to Shadow of Tomb Raider. The new Lara Croft trilogy started incredibly strong in 2013 and only got better with Rise of the Tomb Raider. So everyone expected Shadow to be the peak. But it launched at the worst possible moment, surrounded by huge titles, and ended up getting completely overshadowed. And that's really unfair because Shadow of Tomb Raider is amazing. The graphics are gorgeous, the jungle setting is one of the most stunning environments of the generation, the puzzles are well crafted, and the tombs, one of the franchise's most beloved features, are even better. It's darker, denser, more emotional. It closes the trilogy in a respectful, elegant way. It's not perfect, but it's way, way better than people realized at release. And lastly, we have one of the most unfair flops in racing game history, Drive Club. Drive Club had a great concept, a racing game focused on online clubs, racing teams, and collective challenges. It had huge potential, especially as a major PS4 exclusive. But the launch was a mess. The game had already been delayed a few times, and when it finally came out, it was completely broken. Server crashes, bugs, online issues, everything that could go wrong did. And since first impressions matter, the game's reputation sank instantly. What most people don't know is that months later, the studio kept working hard on it. The visuals improved drastically, the dynamic weather became one of the most beautiful ever made, the tracks were polished, and the online finally worked the way it should. Drive Club became one of the best looking and most fun racing games on PS4. But sadly, by the time that happened, it was too late. Almost no one wanted to give it a second chance. Launch disasters are becoming more common. Some games manage to recover, like Cyberpunk and Jedi Survivor. Others end up buried forever, like Drive Club. But the truth is, every game on this list deserves a second chance. Each one has something special, something unique, something absolutely worth experiencing. Now tell me, which of these have you played, and which one deserves to be defended at all costs? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, turn on notifications, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content. And if you want to support the channel in a special way, consider becoming a member. That would make me really happy. And thanks for your attention. See you in the next video.